High life music is probably Ghana's most important contribution to global culture. Yet most of us are ignorant of its origins and influences. Probably 60% or more of the output from the numerous TV channels and radio stations in Ghana is high life music in one form or the other. But as with everything we do in Ghana, we want to have it for free and forget that those who make it as happy also have to chop. As we continue to shake our bodies to high life and hip life, we must use this unique local content instrument to create more work and happiness for Ghanaians. Good evening and welcome to Tarzans Take.
Next one on the Prime Minister, Black and Blue. Cold empty bed, springs hard as lead, feel like old nails. Wished I was dead. What did I do? Be so black and blue. Even the mouse ran from my house. They laugh at you and scorn you too. What did I do to be so black and blue? White inside, that don't help my case. Good life, can't hide what is in my face for by those vibrations. I would it end, ain't got a friend. My only sin is in my skin. To be so black and blue.
You going to Russia? I'm in Russia.
Welcome back. You saw the beginnings of high life and some of the influences of high life in terms of the big band music of America. Joining me tonight, we want to share with you where is high life and where did it come from. I've spoken to many people and I said, oh, you're in the music business, where is high life from? And many of them stare you blankly in the face. You enjoy the music? Of course we do. So tonight we'll spend a little time talking about high life, from high life to hip life, so that we get to know the roots of this music, which is probably our biggest contribution to global culture. Joining me tonight is Professor John Collins. He's a professor of music at the University of Ghana. He's a musicologist, and more importantly, the author of probably the most definitive book on our music, High Lifetime. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much.
We may be joined by Paulina Odro and Bessie Simmons. If they do come, we'll join the discussion. John, I wanted you to maybe spend a few minutes taking us through, with some illustrations, the origins of high life and how we got here up to now.
Okay, this usually takes me a whole semester when I'm talking to my students.
You've got 15 to 20 minutes for this conversation that we're going to have.
Then I'm going to do a very highly edited version.
Well, it has to be.
Okay. Basically, high life is a fusion music. There's a fusion of course, Ghanaian or West African music with European influences, and also the music of the black diaspora, Caribbean, American music. We saw just now a picture of Louis Armstrong and so on. So it's really a fusion of three things, but of course the main thing is the Ghanaian, and then the Western and the black American and Caribbean influences were layered on top. And the very earliest type of high life, the thing about high life is that the name itself wasn't invented until the 1920s, but what we now call high life can be traced back to the 1880s. So in fact high life is 130 years old. Okay. And it started with the British trained Ghanaians to play brass band music, but they didn't want the Ghanaians to play African music. So what happened was that for a number of years Ghanaians were playing regimental brass band music trained by the British. You could say that they were brainwashed, if you like. And then along came thousands of West Indian soldiers. They were brought to Ghana to actually fight with the British against the Ashantis. They were actually involved.
Are not on. They should be going on.
They were involved in the Ashanti Wars. So between 1873 and 1901, between 5,000 and 7,000 West Indians were brought to this country. And what they did is they brought their Caribbean rhythms and some songs.
You've got a whole history in 20 minutes.
Don't worry, I'm going to really do this, because this is... cut it short. The Ghanaians realized that you could use Western regimental brass bands to play syncopated rhythms, because the Caribbean soldiers here were using the brass bands in their spare times to play calypso. It's only a footstep from calypso to African music. And basically...
Well, they went from here to the Caribbean.
Exactly. So they reconnected, basically. And even though they came to fight the Ashantis, they actually contributed to Ghanaian culture. So we got Adaha music at around about the 1880s. And this was the first type of high life. In fact, this song, Everybody Likes Saturday Night, in fact, is borrowed from a Caribbean melody, but the Ghanaians changed the words. But, you know...
So is that Adaha?
Yeah, that's...
Everybody likes Saturday Night Adaha.
Yeah, really, that music was called Adaha music. It was a sort of brass band, Ghanaian West African brass band music. So that's one type of early high life, and the earliest. Then the second earliest would be the music of black sailors. The crew people of Liberia, they worked out this way of playing the guitar on the high seas. So they played it, this is a Spanish guitar, but they didn't play it like Spaniards. They played it like Africans. So they used the thumb and the first finger, and they played this. I'll just give you one example of what they were doing. And they did this on the high seas. So they mixed up with, because they were employed on sailing ships and steamships, and they mingled with the other crewmen picked up things like the accordion, the guitar, harmonica, and so on. And this is one style called mainline. So if you learn Ghanaian palm wine high life, this is the first thing you learn. So they had songs to these types of rhythms. Another one, let me just play it because a lot of Ghanaians will know this one. This is Repete, the song, the Liberians, but it was originally called Dagomba.
Dagomba.
Yeah, so this was the...
this was part of the first or the second type of high life?
Yeah, this was even before high life.
It
was sort of brought by the crew people to Ghana, and then they taught Kwame Asari of the Kumasi Trio this style of striking.
Right.
And then he invented, and his group invented the Yamponsa. But they're using the same technique.
Because the first one you played sounded almost like the beginnings of Yamponsa.
In fact, you can see it, it generated Yamponsa.
Yeah.
If I can, maybe I could use the harmonicas as well. Sometimes these early palm wine groups, they used harmonica because it's like a sailor's instrument. So this is the Yamponsa, which... So you're just using the thumb and the first finger.
Okay, that's good. And this is Yamponsa, which was what first recorded by
Kwame Asari and the Kumasi Trio in 1928. Although it was probably written a bit earlier than that.
But it's the first recorded.
Yeah. They did several versions of Yamponsa. They did even one in 6/8. This is in 4/4 time. The 6/8 one.
But it's the first time that high life music has been put on disc, was it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay,
but it was under the name. They didn't call it high life, and they called it.
No, it was before the term was used.
Yeah, called it Osibisaba.
Osibisaba, which is probably where Osibisa got its name from later on. But we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So let's move from essentially palm wine or
this music. Yeah, this music then moved into the rural areas. And this is when you got the Adonson style, and we were watching Konimo earlier in the program. So that style evolved from the Osibisa style from the coast when it moved inland and became the Adonson style. Sometimes
which is Adonson, which is what?
It actually was a music played on the seprawa, and it was and it was transferred onto the guitar in the 1930s. When the guitar moved into...
Was that a second type, or so are we still in the beginnings of...
No, that was it was a little bit later. Like the original Fanti style was, say, around about 1900, but when it moved into the villages and rural areas, say around Kumasi or Brongahafo, Kwao, then you got the Adonson style.
So when did we transform to, say, Joseph Sam and the Kumasi Fanti Trio? Is that the second type?
No, that would be the early type.
The early type. So
they were Fanti. Actually, they're called the Kumasi Trio, but they weren't from Kumasi.
They were Fantis.
They were Fantis, yeah.
Can we have the still image of the Kumasi Trio?
Yeah.
You know, then. So when did they translate to the second form? The second form would be which?
This would be the Adonson style in the villages. So this was about maybe 10, 15 years later. So the guitar was taken into the villages in Ashanti or Brongahafo and so on, and then it met the seprawa and took over from the seprawa, and then this more indigenous style. I mean, I can just play you a snippet.
Yeah,
of it.
play that second time. So who would have been the purveyors of this music? The main.
Okay, there are hundreds of them. There were people
the
like
most popular ones would be who?
Miracle,
Miracle.
Cam Cam. There was Kwamin.
And all of these were in which villages?
Osebonsu. Yeah, these would be in the villages in Kwau, around Ashanti, going into Brongahafo, even into the western region. So it was, and that's when it became called palm wine music, because obviously you would play this music.
You drink it at a palm wine bar.
Yeah, yeah. So so when you say palm wine music today, all these different earlier styles are collapsed into that word. But in fact, you could say there's the Liberian style, the early Ghanaian Fanti style, and then the Asante or Brong or Kwau style.
So when do we move into what we all recognize today as high life, which is the third form?
Okay, well,
the one that gave the name to the...
Yeah, that was a completely separate thing altogether. It was the ballroom orchestras of the local elites. So they were playing ragtime
music,
foxtrots, quick steps. And they didn't play any African music at all at the beginning. And they had bands like the Excelsior Orchestra from about 1914, the Jazz Kings around about 1916, the Cape Coast Sugar Babies, and so many different bands. But at the beginning they weren't playing African music at all, but then some of them decided that they would play an occasional street song, let's say one of the palm wine tunes or the Adaha tunes. And so this happened in the 1920s. So the poor people who gathered outside the dancing clubs suddenly heard their own music being orchestrated by high-class groups, so they called it high-class music.
And so then hence high life.
Yeah, yeah. And a funny thing about this is that Nkrumah tried to get rid of the name High Life in 1960. You know, he thought it was too colonial or English. And I think, of course it didn't work because it was too late. High Life had gone through into the world. They couldn't change the name.
But who would have been the main, artists, I mean, apart from Excelsior?
Oh, there were many. I mean, this is where people like E.T. Mensah and King Bruce and Tommy Griffin got their training as kids.
Yes, right.
There were these, for instance, E.T. Mensah's older brother, Yebwa Mensah, had the Accra Orchestra. Teacher Lamptey had an orchestra called the Accra Orchestra, and I think Yeb was called the Accra City Orchestra.
So typically, what kind of songs would, let's say, the Excelsior Orchestra play?
They didn't really play much High Life. You know, I've only managed to get 4 recordings of High Life songs that all these dance orchestras in the 1920s and 30s played, because they were mainly doing covers of Western music.
But Excelsior were playing till late into the 50s, almost 60s. Were they still just playing Western music?
No, by then they would be playing. Yeah, because they were in competition with the Tempos and other bands. But in the early days, they didn't really play much High Life. But luckily, I mean, the name sort of got coined. So a lot of people think that High Life was invented by rich people. It was actually invented by sailors and soldiers and poor people, street people, but the name was invented in the context of the...
Well, it would have been rich people because they would be playing local songs in their big clubs, wouldn't it be? The Excelsior wasn't exactly where your average Nima person would go for a dance. Or
no, but they go out.
They would go out and listen to it on the outside of the club.
Yeah, with their girlfriends and eat Kelly Willy.
And so where would E.T. Mensah pick up from there? Because E.T. was a much smaller kind of thing.
What happened with E.T. Mensah was that he was a youngster in his brother's orchestra, and also he was taught by Teacher Lamptey in the Accra Orchestra as a schoolboy. So what happened is, as he grew up, the war occurred, and a lot of British and American soldiers came into Accra and Ghana generally, and they brought swing music, a different style, and they set up swing bands. There was one called the Sergeant Leopard and the Black and White Spots. And another one was the Tempos. It wasn't
E.T. and the Tempos.
Yeah, it wasn't even set up by E.T. It was set up by Adolf Doku.
Can you illustrate E.T.'s style in the
it's
sort
difficult
of
on a guitar. Yeah, I mean I can play all for you, but if you wish.
Play all for you, because that is
that's one of his songs. Yeah,
that one of.
Okay.
Good.
But of course, you have to imagine there's a full orchestra.
There's a full orchestra playing in the background.
Yeah.
We'll play this and then we'll take a break. Fantastic. Now, that is the beginnings of high life.
As we know it today.
As we know it today.
Yeah, the
First,
dance band variety.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll start to look at how other influences came about, and then what brought us to where we are today. Okay. We'll be back.
Generation, Sundays, Multi-TV for Kids channel, 3:30 p.m. Joy News channel, 4 p.m.
Welcome to Newsfile.
We now have what is it that disables them from doing what is required of them.
If you have an electrical system and it is not coming on, maybe the fault is not just the bulb.
We have to look at our circumstances and whether they make sense. No.
Growth rate of 7% for the real sector. It's fantastic.
Better in particular, simply to make sure that whatever you are saying, please give me enough information so that I will check and see whether or not what I have here is what you are talking about.
Very irresponsible talk.
I think it's about
State of Ghana today is one of Ashwako.
If 4 million votes should count, why are you asking for those votes to be annulled?
Politics, petty politics, propaganda-driven politics is what has led us to this particular embarrassment.
This is your most authoritative news analysis show. I am Samson Ladi Anyenini.
Get a Digibox now. Visit us on www.multitvworld.com or call 0302 211 68025 for a Multi-TV accredited dealer.
Hi, my name is Nathaniel Atto and I'm host of Sports Today on the Joy Sports channel on Multi-TV. It's exciting and it's action-packed as we bring you all the compelling sports stories here in Ghana and also internationally. Between 7 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. it's every putt, every medal, every punch, every trophy, every card and every kick right here on Joy Sports on Multi-TV. Whether it's on the pitch or in the ring or on the racetracks, you know you have every reason to join me. It's Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. It's all action-packed and it's all exciting. My name is Nathaniel Atto and I have love for sport.
Welcome back. A very fortuitous time to be joined by my second guest, Bessa Simon. Welcome, Bessa.
Thank you.
For those who don't know Bessa, well, I think everybody should know him because he has a very long history. Great keyboard artist, member of the legendary Osibisa group. And any of you who have heard Belembe, that is him. That is his big contribution. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, later on we shall also be talking about his other role, which is helping Musica to develop the music industry in Ghana. Remember I talked about how we should be using this as a local content. This is a very good time to bring you in because you were part of the exodus of Ghanaian musicians who went into Europe at the time that the country became a little bit difficult. So I'd like you to talk to us a little bit about the internationalization of high life, Sibisa, Berger High Life, Bembraco. That was a very important phase of high life development. So maybe you can, since you are part of it, both in terms of an active participant and also living it, maybe give us a little history of that.
Yeah, I think before that, you know, Ghana was very vibrant with live music all over, with a whole lot of musicians all around. You know, namely guitar players, drummers, keyboard players, and artists were recording. But when the time came for people to leave, you know, most of the musicians left because there was no job. There was no venues, no nightlife. And you know, music also goes with nightlife. And at 6 o'clock, everything should come to a halt. Hence, so many musicians leaving the shores of Ghana. But when people left the shores, they didn't put down their tools.
No.
They still played music. George Darko and Co. went to Germany, and they came back with Berger High Life. That is high life now being played with drum machines, synthesizers, you know, all kinds of modern gadgets came in.
So who were you playing with before you left here?
Oh, I played with first of all, I played with a band called Wantu Wazuri.
What? I was a young person. I heard of all those.
Yes, with Tommy Darling.
Yes.
Yes, with Tommy Darling. I played with Wantu Wazuri, and I led a band called the Dutch Bengals.
Okay.
Then I played with C.K. Man and the All Masters, where we had Papa Youngson, Osei Tutu, Juelaka. They were all in there. And I think the last band I played was the Third Eye.
That one I heard.
That's Chris Bediako
and John Sokol. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I left Ghana.
And then with all around you, because I think before we jump, maybe we should talk about that music scene before you all left, because there was Ebo Taylor and people playing with Stargazers and Uhuru,
that's right.
and the Ramblers International, etc.
I mean,
that was a very vibrant scene. I mean, I was a fairly young person, but I was running away to these clubs.
Yeah, I was young too. And the good thing is we saw great musicians like Ebo Taylor, Pat Thomas, C.K. Man when we were growing up. They were playing all around, and you see them and you see how well they played on stage and how wonderful the music is. At that time, if you want to become a musician, that's where you make your decision. That I want to be as good as them. I want to be on stage playing so well that people will enjoy what I play. Then there were also lots of venues, you know.
Yes.
We had Metropole, Apollo Theatre,
yes.
And there were others in Pamprum. There was one at Dansuman.
Me, I was a Bush Kumasi boy, so I knew Star Nightclub and Jamboree,
yes,
and Sentimental Club, which used to be the old house of Dr. Banda, who became the first Prime Minister of Malawi. I remember. Yes.
I know there used to be 60 clubs in Accra alone playing live music.
Yeah.
And then we had the Kumasi had a nightclub called Hotel the Kingsway.
Hotel the Kingsway.
Which was owned by a Sierra Leonean. So he brought Gerardo Pino and the Heartbeats and the Echoes.
Collingwood Williams. Yeah.
You know, so that was a very vibrant scene, I remember, in those days. And then suddenly everybody got up and left. Why was that? First to Nigeria.
Yeah, I think because the business, you know, I think this music industry, the business takes you around the whole world. And when the time comes, if you have to move, you have to move. And then if you can come back, you come back. What really happened was, I'm sure you've discussed it already, but when we
haven't gotten there yet. We're just coming up to that point. Yeah. We're doing the early high life. So but I thought I jumped it a bit, and so I wanted to bring back the 60s and before you all got up and went off. And then I want you to focus on how you hooked up with Teddy Osei and all these people to get into Sibisa.
Yeah, so I think the good thing was also I was saying there were lots of venues and there were a lot of groups, bands, different groups. My time we had the Sappers, we had the Classic Handle, Classic Vibes, You know, that's where Kojontri came from.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of them, and the military bands. But every weekend, everybody's got a job. You know, we had so many places we could play. And I mean, not only in Accra, but if you leave Accra, go to Kumasi, like you said.
Yeah.
I remember when we went to Star Nightclub.
Star Nightclub, yes. Next to the stadium, yeah.
That's right. The place was packed. And I was so excited, you know, to be in Kumasi. And you go to Cape Coast, you know, they have the town hall and Monte Carlo and Takoradi.
And what type of music was being played there? Was it kind of the Europeanized?
It was mixed.
Life?
You know, the bands will
give us some of the tunes that were really popular at the time. I remember Ramblers indigenizing Knock on Wood.
Yes.
You know, sort of Knock on Wood.
I remember, I mean, talk of Ramblers, anytime you hear Ramblers play, it was such a big band sound. And they sounded so modern. Anytime you hear them. Talking about Knock on Wood, the first time I heard them play, they played it so well. And then they played, there was Sweet Memories.
Yes, right.
And it was so nice. But those days, we used to play like all kinds of music. You will start with a bit of jazz, a bit of reggae, then you come to high life. You know, then high life you can play like from CK Man, KJC. If you have your own songs, you can also play.
Talking about KJC, I remember somebody who played the keyboards like you. We used to call him Honey.
Hey, Honey was my idol. Honey made keyboard popular in Ghana when he played the solo in Obaba Kwanjijimi.
Yes.
That was sensational solo.
What were you doing, John? Were you playing?
Yes, I was playing then.
With who?
I was playing that. I played second band to Uhurus at one point, about 72. I was playing with the army band, the Black Berets, and then I had my own band. Yes. And I was playing with Faisal's bands, you know, Bunzus and Bassa Bassa and so on. But Honey, yes, he was the...
Honey.
He ran away to Togo, wasn't it? Togo he left when he left Ghana because of the hardship.
So what happened that suddenly this vibrancy stopped? I can remember what happened in the 80s because of curfew. But why is it suddenly in the 70s everybody got up and left?
In the 70s, I mean, was that when the curfew happened? No,
the curfew was in the late
80s.
Yes.
But in the 70s, I don't know.
Because I remember by the time I went to school in England, Osibisa was already come there starting to perform.
Yeah. I think Teddy Osibisa, they left earlier.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they left earlier to go to Europe. And I think that was during Kwame Nkrumah's time when Ebo Taylor and all those...
Even Kwame Nkrumah sent Ebo Taylor and Teddy Osei to Britain to study.
That's right.
Oh, to study, and then they remained.
Yeah, and I think quite a number of people on scholarships.
Yeah.
But the thing I think we're talking about, the 70s, was the Champong era, the Kalabuli time, when the country collapsed before the curfews.
Yeah.
And we couldn't buy guitar strings, you couldn't get anything. You couldn't even get corn at one point, I remember. So there was a problem. That was when the problem started. And the
Nigerians had found oil, so everybody was going to...
Kofi Sami and everybody.
Yeah, was going to Eastern Nigeria to make their way.
Yeah.
One of the curiosities I didn't understand, why was it in the midst of all this, Fela came here? Because he spent a little time here, didn't he?
It's because the Nigerians didn't like he was experimenting with jazzy high life, because he was a high life man then, before Afrobeat. And he was so ahead of his time even then that it was only the Ghanaians appreciated him, and the Nigerians didn't like the music he was producing. So he actually spent about 2 years in Ghana and sort of made it here. And then, of course, he shifted to Afrobeat in the late 60s, and then he became popular in Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good filler. Can we go back to the internationalization of high life as you saw it when you were in the UK, and the evolution of George Darko, the Lumbas, Braco? How did that scene shape up?
I think that time people were looking for different kind of high life, and also the sound quality of the recordings was a bit more, if not the same, closer to what they hear from when they listen to foreign music, because it was well recorded. They used, very good quality instruments to play, and so when like Equity Brofo, when it came to when it was released in Ghana, it became a big hit because the sound was so good that anytime you play it and you take some of our local music and you play, you can tell the difference, in volume, the way.
But what would have been the roots of, let's say, George Darko's rhythms? Because they were a little distinct.
Yeah, I mean, George...
What would have been the influence? You are the historian, you are the musician.
Well, he was a guitarist, so he was playing... I mean, Equity Brofo, he played Yamponsa, basically. Yeah. He was playing Yamponsa guitar. But the other instruments were electronic, like Bob
No, but
Fisher.
the rhythm was quite distinct.
Yeah.
Oh, he put a disco beat in it.
Yes, okay. So that was the disco beat.
Yeah.
The rhythmic side.
It was the disco
drum beat.
It was the 70s disco influence on him.
Very pop, kind of a drum beat. But George played Amponsa guitar in it. He's a very, very good guitarist when it comes to playing guitar and mixing it. It's the fusion. The way they fused high life and foreign music, the way they fused it was so good. You can feel the high life in it, and you can feel the disco, like you said, also in it. And it was.
And your own experience with the Sibisa, I mean, the Sibisa probably was the largest high life influence in Europe and the West.
Yeah.
I mean, you happen to have been with them. When did you join, and how did it all happen?
I joined Osibisai around 86, and I think what they did was they fused high life with every music in the world, and they did it so well. And the identity is their brass lines and the rhythms and the instrumentation. I mean, they use from kete, gongons, cowbells, and they did it so well that when you hear, you wonder, where is this music coming from?
Where was the brass influence from?
That is from Ghana.
Oh, that's from here. So that was
strictly Ghana.
Taking the 50s and 60s brass band influence from here to...
Exactly. Teddy, Mark, and Lofty, I mean, they blended so well. And the power of their blowing, even when it was left with Teddy and Mark Tonto, these two men, when they blow on stage, it was so powerful that, if other bands play, theirs sounds very small.
Fantastic. We could be talking forever, but I want us to take a break and then take in the modern thing. Yeah, take in the modern hip life. So, can we do that now, please?
People always ask me the same question. Reggie, do you like the hip life today and what you created? And I'm like, if I knew the hip life would become what it is today, I would have registered that word hip life and I would be a millionaire. No, I don't. I mean, look, there's the one thing that's for sure is that our movement is here to stay. It has put food on the tables of millions, created jobs, radio, television, name it. I'm sitting here once again talking about hip life. It's content for your television. I actually paid homage to hip life by incorporating the name itself into the movement that I was starting. So it didn't just say, I could have came up and said, oh, this is the new trend of music called Reggie Rock or Reggie style. No, I took something that was authentically Ghanaian and I brought it to the forefront, polished it up. So the homage is definitely paid.
Woman, I see a woman. Every day in the mirror I see a woman. And every time I look in my mind I see that woman. A wonderful woman, an African woman, mother of nature. Beautiful woman.
Accra living
island, yeah. Go to a lake house, baby, break out and make out.
Quite like you, you're special, the exception to the rule. Yeah, you're my star, I'm your twinkle. And I love the way you kiss on my dimple. Yeah, wanna party just to talk. Them say we no go last, then say we just to walk. They wanna imitate us, cause they can't, they try to separate us. Yeah, our bond is so strong. When the song ends, the music still goes on. One boy, one girl, one heart, one love, one world.
You're that one girl. You're that one girl. You're that one girl.
I gotta be like this, so if you flash my thing up, I go tell mommy, oh, I've been 16 years. I gotta be like this, so if you flash my thing up, I go tell mommy, oh.
Hey, when you come, when you deep, keep the pace, hey, not the race. Check me out, but don't be silly. And then there's a 16. But you may need my sweet things. When you're going, you know, be big deal.
We have seen various versions of the genre as it's in its modern form. It has developed from essentially palm wine to now it's got international influences from all over the world. But what we need to be concerned about right now, and I think I want to end up this discussion, is this, or this whole thing. For over 100 years, we've been influenced by what we call high life in its various forms. One of the things I worry about, and this is coming to you as musiker, for example, a lot of the musicians finish up in penury and in poverty. And I want to know how we are trying to cash in on this brand Ghana product to make sure that we can actually do something for those who make us happy. But before I get into that, I want to ask you a very, very direct question. We have almost 300 radio stations in this country, 20 television stations. They are playing everybody's music from all over the world with no respect to the copyright laws of the world. They play without paying royalties. How is Musica looking at this particular thing? And how do you think you can expect to generate revenue for your members from the sweat of their labor if the whole country is operating in this lawless manner?
This is
It's a topic that always saddens me because I know exactly what should be done. I know what it is like.
We have a copyright office also.
Yes, we have a copyright office. I've experienced it. And no matter how hard everybody tries, we always come back to square one. But I think now what's happening is we've got GAMRO, who are supposed to be like the publishers, like the people who are going to be collecting the royalties and give it to people who have signed their rights to them to collect it for them. One, the structures are not in place. We don't log music, so we don't know how many times they've played somebody's music. Two,
but the law elsewhere requires those who play to do the logging.
Exactly. And also, I think the media, the people who play the music themselves, are not friendly enough to sit down and say, hey, we have to do the right thing. These two parties will have to come together to do the right thing, make sure, because other than that, these young musicians are also going to grow up and become the same.
You lived in Europe.
Yeah.
You know that nobody respects the law unless the police are looking after them.
Exactly.
We live in a country where nobody, not even those we have voted for, seems to live by the law. I mean, because I'm concerned about how our musicians and all those who make us happy, footballers, etc., finish up in penury when they finish. And we can't expect equity if we play people's music and we don't pay for it.
Yeah. We have to do the right thing. I mean, for example, what Musica is doing now is we are supporting GAMRO in any other way to make sure that when the time comes, they have the elections and then form.
Who is GAMRO? But what's their full name?
Oh, GAMRO is Ghana Music Rights Association. They collect royalties. It's like PRS in the
are they collecting? If there's no monitoring of the airtime?
Exactly. These are some of the things. I mean, they are trying.
What representations have you made to government? Because, you know, part of the people enjoying single spine salary are the people working in the copyright office of this country. What are they saying about these things?
Well, they're saying they've got...
there's a law?
Yeah, there's a law. And, I mean, people who are breaking the law. I mean, this has happened at a time where piracy is at its peak. And all over the world, people are trying to fight piracy, but they can't.
Because let me set it in the context. When I remember when I first came back here, there was the whole thing about is it payola you called it?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to all of that? Payola and the little yellow stickers that were put over all those cassettes.
The banderoles.
Bandora, whatever it was.
It never really worked.
So how are we protecting the musicians, the creators of high life? How are we protecting them?
Well, I can tell you what they're doing in Nigeria at the moment, if you want to know.
Okay, fine. But Nigeria is not too far from us.
One of the music unions there has cut everything short. They have a law like Ghana, which it's illegal to not pay people for their music. So they have a room where they put people down at radios, logging the radios themselves, and then when they find the companies that are not paying, they take them to court. And huge amounts of money are being paid, and the other radio stations are now falling into line. Because we're both in the situation in Nigeria and Ghana where the law is there, but nobody's obeying it. So it's the musicians who actually can do it themselves.
Who's the minister in charge of leisure and music in this country?
Now we have
tourism and recreation.
Creative arts.
Are you listening, madam? Please, let's enforce the law of Ghana so that our musicians can also get no kofio when they finish their lives. Because we can't have a copyright office that is not enforcing the law. And, you know, I think there's at least 280 active FM stations now. And 22 radio stations, all playing high life music for free.
And it's very important now because CD sales are down because of internet piracy.
That's right.
So nobody can make CDs in Ghana anymore. So this source of revenue is really important to music.
Down.
Yeah. So
what is music actually doing now in terms of trying to promote musicians in Ghana?
Well, I mean, musical, we are trying. You know, now we have GAMRO, and GAMRO will soon be on its feet and operating properly. So we are supporting them to have all their structures in place so that they can go to the radio stations and the television stations and make sure they lock the music they use. I'm saying the music they use, you know, so that at the end of the day, when the people come for the royalties, they will say, they play my music 13 times and this is how much you get. But I also want to advise the young musicians, young and up-and-coming musicians. Today that you are making hits, if you are not getting your royalties being paid by the radio and the television stations, you are losing a chunk of your pension and everything that will set you for life. So please get interested and ask questions why we are not getting royalties in Ghana.
Good. For those of you who pay top tax, please start paying your royalties and make sure that our musicians will survive so that high life may move on to another genre beyond hip life. Tonight you've been hearing Professor John Collins, author, musicologist, and museum keeper, and Bessa Simmons, who is a great musician, helping out, trying to sort out everybody else. And just in case you think that Tarzan is being too know again, talking about things he doesn't know anything about, I'm the publisher of John Collins' books, The High Lifetime and other books, and a new edition will be out before the end of the year. We've had many technical challenges today. We had hoped to spend more time listening to music than to hearing us talk, but at least it's also offered us an opportunity to learn about a little bit about where high life is started, where it has developed. We didn't even talk about the fact that Jerry John Rawlins's curfew was the progenitor of gospel music, because it was only in the churches that people could sing and dance. You learn a little bit more every day. We shall be back to this subject. Thanks for watching and good night.
As my face up,